Welcome to the Raising Smart Kids podcast. I'm your host, Yang Pratt, and each week we'll explore ways in which the arts can help you raise a smarter kid. I'll be sharing ways the arts can propel your child's learning and interviewing top artists, educators, and entrepreneurs. These guests will share why the arts are so very important to your child, along with actionable ideas you can easily implement into your already busy schedule. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast here on iTunes and share us with a friend. For extra tips on raising smart kids, head on over to artsmartparenting.com and click on the Live tab. Well, welcome back to the Raising Smart Kids 2.0 podcast. This is episode number 60, and I am so glad to have you here with me today. Our guest today is somebody that I've gotten to know over the past couple of months. We are in a mastermind group together, and I have seen her put out some amazing work into the world. And I'm so thrilled that she can be here today to share her story, share how she's used the arts in her life, and really tell you about her movement. Welcome to the show, Lilah.
Hello, it's great to be here today.
Fantastic. Well, take us back a little bit and tell us who you are and kind of how you got into this world of art.
Awesome. So yeah, I was 8 years old the first time my mom took me to art class. And it was actually, I had kind of expressed interest as a kid, always being artsy. And I remember those little like alphabet puzzles that, you could do to match up your letters. My sister, was like the smart one, the like booky one. And she at 2 years old was like putting it in order and, had it all organized and whatever. And I was sitting on the side, like putting them in color piles. So putting all the red alphabets, all the red letters in one pile and the green letters in another pile. Yes. So my mom right away noticed that I had that art bent. And my dad was an architect, a self-taught architect, kind of started at, I think he was 16 when he got his first drafting job. Wow. And by the time he was 25, he had taught himself drafting and had taken the test that you have to take to get your license and was already teaching at a school. So kind of followed in my dad's footsteps, although I went more the design route rather than the architecture route. And so, in art classes from about 8 until I was 16, 17, and from a really gifted teacher. Her name was Mrs. Irwin, and she pretty much knew every medium. Her specialty was watercolor, but she taught me charcoal and pastel and pencil, and she taught me lettering. She taught me a little bit of sculpture. We kind of went through everything. And by the time I was a teenager, she told me, she's like, well, you can pay me to come and sit and paint with me, or you kind of learned everything you could from me. So it was kind of an apprenticeship type situation, which was really cool, and I was really blessed with. And I know my mom and dad invested a lot in having that for me. So that's kind of where it started. And then since my dad was an architect, he ended up having his own business. And so always had access to technology, like the latest programs, always had Adobe Creative Cloud, or not the cloud, but always had the new suite every year. And so I was just bored in the office for the most part. We were homeschooled. So after I got my school done, it was hop on the computers and play around. So I started on Paint and graduated to Photoshop, and then eventually, taught myself Illustrator and InDesign. So kind of my parents just kind of provided all of that for me. And then it was my, desire to learn more and to keep trying that kind of grew that.
That's amazing to have that support when you were growing up. I know for a lot of parents, sometimes, we like to give our kids those things, those tools when they're younger. But as they get older, I find this even in myself, who I consider myself an artist. However, there are those practical days we really probably should work on some math today.
Right.
Instead of figuring out these beautiful colors or how to create something. So I love that your parents were able to give you that tool, and you have two little boys. And so how are you planning to be able to equip them with the opportunities to really take their unique gifts in their own direction?
Yeah, so I've actually got a boy and a girl. So my oldest is a boy, and then our youngest is a daughter. And it's fun to watch them start to develop things that they like and watch their talents kind of come out. My son is a total engineer. He at 18 months was taking apart my vacuum and putting it back together.
Wow.
And so that's kind of a funny thing some days because he'll just like destroy stuff. And I'm like, you can't just destroy stuff, especially if you can't put it back together. Yeah. So a friend of mine actually suggested having like old appliances that he could go in and play with. You just like chip off the cord and let them go to town. But my daughter, she's almost 3, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly what she likes and where her bent is. But yeah, I think we're pretty observant. Like we watch them. We, kind of observe like how they interact with other kids and what they, what their bent is towards, if they're introverted, extroverted, that type of thing. So just kind of being present with them and talking to them. My daughter right now says she wants to be an astronaut because she wants to go to space and see all the planets. Yes. So I'm sure that will change, as they get older and stuff. But they're both pretty smart from what I know. Like, my mom's a little biased, but she always tells me like, he's so smart. So they're both learning and growing and we're just kind of building that space for them.
Yeah. And I love that too. And what you said is so important for parents, especially if they're parents who are both of them working outside the home. Mm-hmm. The time they get to spend with their kids is so small. So to really be able to disconnect and be observant and be present, I think those are such valuable lessons that even if there's 5 minutes, that's something we can all do today to really get to know our kids. So that's brilliant that you guys have that. So you're both working from home now, so yes. You get to observe them even more.
Yeah, and they get to observe us. So that's kind of interesting. Like them seeing us work. Like my daughter will come up. She came up to me the other day and had we've got like a really old like battleship game that's like the like black and white. It's like from the 90s, and I swear it's had the batteries in it for like 20 years. And it's like awesome. Still working.
The good old toys.
Yeah, but she brought it over to me and she had it on her ear and she's like, Mom, shh, I'm working. I'm working, Mom. So they understand like the difference between mom's working and mom's, present with you. So that's been kind of fun to see. And now that Dad's home, like they wouldn't have it any other way now with him home. Like he'll be gone for, a couple hours at the coffee shop or he'll go meet some friends or whatever. And they're like, where's Dad? Like why has he been gone so long?
No, that's so awesome. And I remember too that journey growing up for my kids too, because from the moment they were born, I was packing them to rehearsals and they came to, when I had to set a new piece for production, they would just come with me. And so they had those same hours that I did as well. So it was just so fun that they learned from a very young age what it meant to be when it was a time to listen and when it was a time to interact, because they came to meetings, board meetings, and everyone's in their suits and ties. And here I have the baby on the pack and here I am to do the meeting. And so I think it's a brilliant way to raise kids, because now as my kids are getting older, they never talk about getting a job. They always talk about, someday, Mom, I want to have my business and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And it just fills my heart with joy to hear that, because, while I think school is a great place to go and it's a brilliant place for kids to learn, I think sometimes it can be a little stifling.
Yeah.
Because they're not really encouraged to discover their true purpose or their true talents. And, if they are really artistic or musical, an hour a week is not nearly enough time for them to really experience and really dive into what that could look like for them.
Right.
So yeah, the entrepreneurial road definitely, I think, is just a brilliant way to be able to raise kids and to help them understand what it means to be independent and what it means to go out there and be bold. Because sometimes they see, I'm sure as your kids get older too, they'll recognize, Mom is going to launch something and there's going to be a new product. So things feel a little bit different around here. And
things get a little more stressful.
Yes, the ebbs and the flows of what the business looks like. So I love that. So as an artist, I want to know from you, what do you feel that art provides kids that they aren't getting in regular classes at school?
Gosh, I mean, it's kind of twofold, because there's the art part, but then there's the entrepreneur part. And so you can be a non-artistic entrepreneur, and neither of those things are really provided in school that I've seen. And so I don't know, like, you've got to, if your kids are in public school, if your kids are in a program where that's not really a thing that is there, you've got to like figure out how to weave it in somehow. Because it should be something that is just kind of available for them that they could then like take and run with, like my parents did for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's part of the reason that I got into doing what I do now. Even though I started the business before I had kids, as they were growing, I was attending graduate school and learning really about how arts really changes the brain and how it really
Mhm.
makes us more open to being able to experience things and take more risks, and really leading us down the entrepreneurial road versus the school sort of way where I feel like we're all trained to do the same things and everyone has some sort of same basic level of competency across the board. And if you're not good enough in that, they tend to look at weaknesses and try to remediate kids versus saying, oh, you know what, it's okay. This math part will catch up.
Yeah.
You're really great at doing this over here. Maybe you're a brilliant writer. So
Mhm.
let's see where that takes us. I really wish schools had time in their day and teachers had time in their day to really allow kids to really dive into who they are and what they love, because I think that would really change the direction of the school experience for so many kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And even though I was homeschooled, I still had to take, the SAT and the ACT and
Yeah.
all the different tests as I was in the STAR testing, as you were, going after each grade, you had to like figure out where you were basically. And I was a terrible tester and I felt so dumb as a kid. But I remember my mom had us like take our IQ or whatever. And my IQ is like on average, like higher than most people. And I was always so confused because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm dumb. Like I can't take a test. Like I can't, do math in my head. I can't, sit down and solve a long division problem without struggling really hard. And yet my IQ and, my people skills and all these other artistic things, I'm really, really talented in and totally come easy to me. And so, making sure that as a parent, you're affirming those things in your kid. And my parents did a great job at that. And I still felt like dumb. like I'm never gonna go anywhere in the world. Like I had those thoughts as a little like 10-year-old kid. And so
Yeah.
yeah, making sure you're just creating that space that makes them realize the value of the arts and how, like, I mean, I run a business, and so there's a lot of not artsy stuff I have to do every day. But because I'm so passionate about the art part of it,
Mm-hmm.
I figure it out. Like I just make it work and do the things I need to and do, have the spreadsheets and have the things that I have to organize and, the budget and all those things. So, but that's because I'm trying to, work on my art more and more. And so, I'm not math smart, but I figure out what I have to know to make it work.
Well, and I can relate to your story on so many levels. I think there are so many parallels in our experiences growing up because I had the same ones too, where, I went to school and math was not my strong suit. I
Mhm.
really excelled in English. Whereas my brother, he was the engineering, the mechanic, that was his gift. And the English part for him was really hard. But
Yeah.
for him, school was so easy. And I used to think, gosh, what am I doing wrong? Why
Mhm.
does it take me so much longer to get it? And I can get really good grades, but when it comes to these tests, they're embarrassingly low.
Right.
Well, I have to tell you that I didn't discover this secret, I guess I'll call it, until graduate school. I took
Mhm.
a whole course on pedagogy and learning and discovered Howard Gardner and his theory of multiple intelligences and
Mhm.
about how each of us has 8 different intelligences, but schools teach and test to 2 of them.
Yeah. Right.
So if you happen to be brilliant in any of those other ones, I mean, pretty much you're not going to do great on these tests, which make us as kids feel lesser than. And I
Mhm.
know for myself, I carried that around till I was in my 30s until I learned this. And I was like, oh, my whole educational experience makes sense. And now I understand. And so that's what I love to help parents discover is that it's okay. A test is a test. It tests one single point in the day, but we're
Mhm.
not going to hang our hat on that result.
Right.
Let's talk about some of the other things that your kid is brilliant at and let them express themselves and, ways to talk to the teachers so we can bring those talents into the classroom to make them feel worthy and make them feel as smart as the other kids in class because absolutely all these little babies in the world are so smart, but I feel like, again, they're walking a very narrow path where it's one definition of what smart looks like. And
Right.
it's disheartening a lot of times. I've talked to parents, and I'm sure you have as well, where it's just so sad because their kid is so smart. You know them from different things, and they're struggling so much in school, and there's so much
Mhm.
stress around, oh, my kid is going to get held back, or my kid is going to get remediated, and what does that mean? And there's a lot of just, I guess, social anxiety about how our kids do as we live kind of vicariously through them. So I just think, again, what you have to say about giving your kids this space, whether it's at home or whether they're going to schools, giving them space during the day when there's little structure, when they can start to explore, and whether it's to deconstruct these appliances. I love that. My brother did the same thing, and he could never put them back together again. Was the problem. Always wanted to take them apart, but never putting back together, not so much.
Yeah, at least not correctly.
Exactly. So I just love that philosophy in parenting. And if parents are listening today, I really hope that they, can take this little bit again about taking the time, being present, and creating opportunities for their kids to really explore, because really it's about, we have all this time during our childhood to explore, and it's we want them to be able to feel good knowing that they're going out into the world and doing these great things, and people are supporting them along the way.
Yeah, that's how we plan to raise our kids. Like there's like Montessori type school, and that's what we're hoping to get them in this year. And like it's non-digital, like there's nothing where they're on tablets or they're watching TV. Like it's all this idea I heard a couple weeks ago was like, you just like set out a set of books all on astronomy or all on color theory or all on one topic, and then they just kind of like explore the room and like get to learn what they want to learn. And what that does is it creates patterns in your brain where you like learning because it's not forced upon you. And so then, I mean, even my husband and I will sit at night and watch a bunch of documentaries or different YouTube videos or whatever to teach ourselves more. So we're just we consider ourselves lifelong learners. And so especially at my kids' age, they're 2 and 4, and they both already know their alphabet. They both already know all the colors. They can, my son is already writing and spelling, which is freaking me out a little bit, but they're both really smart, but we give them that space, and we're helping them learn how to learn and how to love learning.
Yes. And you should check out the unschooling movement.
Yes, that's probably what we're going to do.
Yes, because it really is about that, about allowing your kids to explore different areas of interest and letting their fascination with that take them to the next place. And you learn everything along the way, but it's that drive to learn and that eagerness and hunger for learning that everything else just falls into place as it's meant to fall into place. There's not necessarily structure or by the time you're 3, you do this. And by the time you're 5, you do this. It just evolves. And I think that's such a beautiful way to let our kids grow up.
Yeah. And it takes a little bit of like parents having to let go. Like I would love for my kids to grow up and take over the family business, but maybe they want to be an astronaut and an engineer and they want to move to, across the country or out of the country or whatever. And so as parents, we've got to take a deep breath and like step back and not have that need to control over them and just let them kind of, take it from where they're at.
Absolutely. So I want to change subjects a little bit here. I want to talk about creativity. As a creative, I'm sure you've heard this before from people around you who are in business, who are doing certain things, and they just flat out say, I am not creative. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that to be true?
I get that all the time. And my mom is the worst one. She's always like, I'm not creative. I can't even draw a stick figure. And no, that is all about what the Wake to Make movement is about. And you can find us on Instagram if you just do the hashtag Wake to Make. And we've got, courses and all kinds of stuff. But the idea behind the movement is that everyone is a maker and everyone creates. And, whether it's, I always say, whether you're building a roof or making coffee or making someone's day, you're putting something out into the world. Like, what are you producing? And so that is a form of creativity. I can't for the life of me make latte art, but there's a barista downtown that I absolutely love and go to almost every day to get my latte art. And, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't have a roof over my head. So yes, everyone has their own thing. And so, if you're passionate about roofing, then that's what you should be doing. If you're passionate about coffee, you should be making coffee. And none of them are unequal. Like, all of them are important. We all need roofs and we all need coffee. Like, they all have a role in the world. And so embracing that and realizing that that is how you are creative. Writers are creative. People who, speak and do like speaking engagements are creative. People who, move around ideas and start movements and encourage people. And, any sort of way that you aren't consuming, you're producing something. So what is that?
Yeah. And I love that you said everyone creates, because that is so true. No matter what your passion is, even if it's not really your passion, but you're doing it to be able to support your family, there's something being created or produced at the end of the day that wasn't there before.
Right.
And that's, when you think about it in those terms, it's almost magical. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, what kind of magic can I create today? Because, okay, like my mom works in a bakery. When she goes in the morning, there's no bread, there's no pastries, and she gets to bake all that and display it all. So, I mean, she's taking really nothing and creating this beautiful something that lots and lots of people, it's part of their day. So being able to step back and say, what did I create today? And really having that mind shift about creativity is not about your artistic ability. For me, creativity is really about problem solving, the way you are able to uncover certain things that no one else sees. To me, that's creativity. And I just love that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the Wake to Make movement. So I want to segue into that because I think it's such a great movement. And you have so many people who are now discovering that they are creative. It doesn't matter what they're doing. They're creating something brilliant and putting something out into the universe, and the universe gets to see it. And I think that's so beautiful. So tell me a little bit about how that movement started, where it began and where it is today.
Yeah, it actually started as a design job I did for Thrive magazine, Thrive with a Y. It's a women's magazine, and she has people submit art and articles and that type of thing. And it's a beautiful magazine. You should definitely check it out. But she had me do a quote that was, "I wake to make beautiful things." And I was like, oh, that's a cute quote. Like I made it a print in our shops. People could go buy it. And then I, at one point, just hashtag wake to make. And I was like, that's a really cool concept. Like let's dig into that a little bit. And it just kind of became a thing. And now there's I think the last time I checked, there's 50,000 tags on Instagram. I just started telling people, hey, tag this,
Nice.
this hashtag and, connect with other makers, connect with other people who make cool stuff. And so it's grown into this idea, and what, we kind of have shifted and focused on is monetizing what you make. So building a business around what you love to do so that you never work a day in your life, as the quote says. Helping people who, I just make cool stuff. Like, what now? Because there's so much that goes along with running a business. So kind of equipping people who already know what they make, already know they love to make soap, or already know they, enjoy coaching or, whatever it is, and then giving them the tools they need to build a business around that.
That's so amazing, because I think that sometimes, especially as moms, I think we forget about that creative part of ourselves, and we're so focused on raising our kids and getting them to play dates and being able to make sure they go to the park and have their sunshine and their activity. We forget what it's like to take that time for ourselves and step back and say, what do I want to create today? Or what did I used to love to do when I was a kid that I don't do it anymore?
Right.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about this new course that you're offering, because I think for two reasons, parents could really just eat this up on so many levels. They could get it to where it's something that they do together with their kids and create beautiful things together for their house, for gifts, or even just for mamas who need a space, who need half an hour a day for them to meditate, for them to really just step away from everything else, all the other responsibilities, and take time for themselves. So tell us more about what you've created.
Yeah, so it is called For the Love of Lettering, and we have a few different course options. So you can kind of pick it up if you've never lettered before, or if you want the full package. There's kind of a couple options in between. And basically it's going to teach you the art of brush lettering. So brush lettering is different than calligraphy, but it is similar in styles. Calligraphy is there's a lot more rules. It's a little more rigid. Brush lettering is very free. It's really popular right now, so I'm sure you've seen it all over advertising things and online. But you can learn how, if you know how to write, you know how to brush letter. You just need to know some of the techniques and using the different tools. And so, yeah, I've actually had a few, probably 4 or 5 now, people tell me, oh, I got this for my grandkid who's 10 because he wants to learn how to brush letter. And so a lot of kids are interested in it. And yeah, it walks you through the basics, what tools you want to use, gives you, examples of all the alphabet or all the letters in the alphabet. And then it also will show you how to digitize that. So if you run a business and you want lettering to be a part of your branding, or you want to make t-shirts or mugs or something like that that's custom to your hand lettering, it'll walk you through kind of all of that, and different techniques for how to accomplish that really, really simply. and then how to, monetize that if you want to figure out how to sell that. So it's really been really fun. I've had all kinds of different people buy it, which has really surprised me. I figured it would be, creative entrepreneurs who have some extra time to, add some lettering to their branding. Like, that was it. But I've had people who are sign makers, people who just want to make a t-shirt for their movement, people who bought it for their grandkids, all kinds of people. Everyone loves the lettering. And so, after taking the course, they can actually write pretty thank you notes. They can actually, write letters like people used to all the time. And so it's been really fun to see what type of people buy the course.
And that's awesome too. And as you're talking and hearing about all these different people buying it, I just see a great application when kids get into 3rd, 4th, 5th grade as they're learning to do cursive.
Right.
What a great way to document how their handwriting changes over the years and be able to put that artistic spin so they can start creating their own things. And again, really finding that value in who they are and the individuality of what they create. That's amazing. Right.
Yeah, or even, everyone's handwriting is different, so that's what's tons of fun. It's like a fingerprint. No matter if you try and copy someone else's, like, it's still gonna have your touch on it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome too. And even like I can think of for little kids when they're learning how to write, because their fine motor skills aren't quite there, so they're already kind of doing that creative writing as well. But to be able to document, okay, this is what it looked like at 3, and then have the next page in the book be, okay, this is how you were at 4. And we all capture pictures, but to be able to incorporate this writing element and this really personal nature of being able to document a moment in your kid's history, I just think, that just gets me so excited to think about where that could lead and what could be created and how families could bond over this and classrooms could learn to really have some fun with handwriting if it's not everyone's favorite thing to do. It really this course really could just turn everything we do in writing into just a little more fun, which we all could use some more fun in our lives. So I want to congratulate you on putting this together because I just think it's brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah. I actually created a booklet, like a practice booklet, so you can go in and trace the letters that I show you how to do. And then there's a space for you to kind of make it your own and add, your own flourishes and styles and stuff. So you can either get that if you buy the masterclass, or you can buy it on our shop if you just want the booklet without any of the courses. So there's a lot of different options for getting involved in it, and it kind of touches every budget. So
that's perfect. Yeah. And where can they go to find out more information about this course?
You can go to waketomake.com, and there's our shop on there, and there's also links to our courses. But if you go to waketomake.com / and that is it's a free download that shows you all the tools you need for lettering, including our mini course that we offer to get you started. And it'll take you right to Amazon to show you, which tools we recommend for starting, and kind of walk you through just like basics, like here, get yourself prepped for, learning how to letter. And so that's kind of a fun free download that people are really enjoying.
Perfect. And I will actually put those in the show notes as well, because I know internet is so funny. The connection sometimes tends to break up at the most inopportune times. So as you were giving the website address, you were breaking up a little bit. So I will definitely make sure that I put that in the show notes and people can click to get right to you. All right. I know your time is very valuable, Lilah, and I want to thank you for being here today. Is there one final parting piece of advice that you could give to parents about allowing their kids to be more creative, or really just, letting their kids be kids?
Relax a little.
That's a great one.
I know that's hard because I don't like my son coloring on the walls with my expensive markers. But allowing them to kind of be a part of your creativity, and even if you're not creative, allowing them to have the creative tools to really just explore, and there's like washable markers and stuff you can use. But Fletcher loves to use my art tools, and sometimes I'm just like, oh, these are so expensive, please don't ruin them. But when I let him do that, I see a whole other part of him open up, and so it's worth it.
That's amazing. Yes, such great advice. Relax, because as moms, we have so many things we're trying to juggle, and dads too, that we forget to have some fun and just let things unfold. We tend to get really tense. So the idea of relaxing, just releasing a breath or whatever you need to do to get to a space of relaxation and just getting to a moment of presence and being there with your kids. I think that's also such a great takeaway that you've shared with us today.
Yeah, there's actually, I did a little section in the course that's like a meditative just recording you can listen to get in the mood. So that would be a fun thing to do with your kids too. It just walks you through like breathing and getting calm and adjusted and, in a seated position where you can start to let her, because it is very relaxing if you let it be. I know for some people when they're starting out, they're like, I'm not good at this. They're angry, like they're frustrated. If you can get to that place where it is a relaxing thing, it's really, really meditative and calming.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'll have to check it out for myself too. And both of my girls are very creative and like to make things all the time. So I'm sure that this is something that they would love to do. And we just got a heat press. So I'm sure that if they could design their own stuff and letter their own stuff, they'd be making t-shirts for all of their friends.
Yes, of course.
Wow, how awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really have enjoyed our time together and learning so much about what you do and what you're creating for the universe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is one of my favorite topics, so I loved it.
Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to the Raising Smart Kids 2.0 podcast. To really accelerate your ability to unleash your child's superpowers and raise smarter kids through the arts, we're creating loads of new resources, ways to connect, and ways to celebrate your successes. You can join our free Facebook community by visiting theartsmartparent.com or just search up Raising Smart Kids 2.0 on Facebook. I look forward to seeing you inside our community.